Hey everybody, it's Anthony Bowling. Another episode of Chasing Gazillions. Not the same as making millions. And we got a special one for you all tonight. Uh, you know, this campaign season. Oh, and we see our special guest presenter here has come on. Let's bring him on. There he is. This is Winslow Woodland, who is a Ward 7 resident. Welcome to Chasing Gazillions. Not the same as making millions, Winslow. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, everybody, during this campaign season, there's been a lot of forums and a lot of questions and a lot of short sound bites. And we've been out here and we've been hearing from the public, hey man, I want to hear some real questions from some real people so we can hear some real answers. And that's what tonight's show is all about. Tonight's show, what we have done is invited Mr. Woodland, who is an influential Ward 7 resident. People know him to be a straight shooter. And he's going to come on unscripted, everybody. This completely unscripted. No questions. No questions have been prepped for a month so that you have time to practice the answers. We don't know what's going to happen here, except for it's going to be very informative and a very special evening here tonight because we're going to let Mr. Woodland come on and ask any question he wants of Valerio VJ Johnson and explore it to wherever it goes so that you, the listening audience, the Chasing Gazillions audience, come away with a deeper, more thorough understanding of the issues. Now we know you always heard this in school. There's never a bad question. That's not what we say. We always say it's never a stupid question. But the truth is that somebody wants the answers to the questions that we're going to have here tonight. So with that, I'm not going to take up any more time. That's 3 minutes, my intro. I'm going to turn it over to you. Let me throw it this way. I think that's the way we want it. And then we're going to hit full screen. There we go. And then we're going to bring you up to the top. There you go. And now, Winslow, you have control of the command. We're going to sit back and just let you have at it. Certainly, you are free to introduce yourself, tell people about you and what you're doing, because I know you also operate in this media space and are building your own following that's out there listening to you. So if you got sponsors you need to holler at, I understand. So go right ahead.
So for myself, I'm going to just allow myself to have a clock. So if you see me, just look over. I got 3 screens here. I'm not, there's no teleprompter, but I have a clock because I can be rather long-winded and I want this to be as useful as I believe you all intending it to be. First of all, thank you for having me. As Brother Bolden said, one of the things I do is I'm a podcaster in reverse order. I'm also a nurse. I've been a nurse for over 30 years. I'm working on a project of developing health and wellness business that will help heal people that look like me, people who think like me and who operate like me. So with that being said, I'm a Ward 7 resident. I've been living in Ward 7 since 1994. I am a human being who is prone to error. So forgive me if I have any missteps that anyone who chooses to, drill into my background and look into me, they might find that, I haven't always been as polished as the man you see here today. So I think I'm more than equipped to touch some of the subjects that actually are of concern to me. I can say that Mr. Johnson, I am acquainted with Mr. Johnson, and I have seen Mr. Johnson throughout the community. And Mr. Johnson is someone who I've had conversations with before I even knew that politics were in his future. With that being said, there are opportunities on occasion to have real discussion in this ward, and I've mentioned this to Mr. Johnson in passing. Let me just also say that I'm not locked into any candidate. I want to be very clear before I go into my questions. And as was stated, this is not scripted. Mr. Johnson, the Ward 7 as we know it today, and as I've always known it since 1994, is probably one of the most diverse socioeconomic wards that I'm aware of. And what do I mean by that? The median income in this ward sits somewhere around $50,000. And I'll have to say that most of the people that I know, my neighbors and people that I associate with in the ward, make a little more than that. And on top of that, I want to know, what is your plan to decrease? You talk about bridges. I hear a part of your campaign that you are trying to bridge some gaps there. What do you believe is the answer to bridging the gap between the wealth disparity, the educational disparity, the health disparity for the people in Ward 7?
The latest, so your number 50, your number 50. Oh, I got to come here, man. Chill out. I got a fur baby, 2 of them. And so the number 50,000 is arguable, can be debated. 50,000 can be debated, but the latest from Health Matters, I can send you the link. They estimate the median to be at 67,000, which has increased as a result of the integration of new communities into the ward, right? So we have to take into account that we have new folks with new values of new home values. We have new incomes, right? We have new education levels. So we are working with a higher number now. Hold on, let me deal with this. Hold on.
Okay, everybody. So while Mr. Johnson deals with his,
so while he's away, yeah. I'm gonna give it to him, and I just want to make sure that I was noticing when he was coming on, he was like he was in the ring, he was rocking back and forth because he knows me, he knows that I pull no punches, but I just have to say to anyone listening, you, Brother Boland, this is a very serious decision that we're about to embark upon in this ward. We've had the luxury of a seasoned statesman in Vince Gray for a very long time as the executive and within the legislature. And this is this is like turning your Bentley over to the next person to drive. I'm sorry.
Yes, I agree. Okay. We're
all straight. You were saying?
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
I got to put them in the crate in the basement.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so the first thing we have to do is create more access to opportunities. I started this in the 2900 block of Nelson Place, working with young people. Back then we had a program called Weed and Seed, and MPD, in particular, Lieutenant Dennis, was very assertive about getting me involved and helping them kind of tackle the issues on the 2900 block in Nelson Place, which was centered around neighborhood folk selling drugs, right? The one thing we didn't have a big problem with is assaults and murders and car thefts. because the social contract for the community was, hey, we're going to be out here selling drugs. Y'all going to look the other way, but we also going to be protecting the neighborhood from problems, right? And if you're not into that community, or you're not from that community, you don't understand how those communities have these social contracts. And it's not endorsing or promoting, it's just sharing a perspective of how some of these communities actually work. One of the things over time I was able to do is look at to invest government resources into the small business community that is at the 2900 block of Minnesota Avenue, across the street from the auto parts store, which back in the day was a Safeway. Okay. You had My Fight with the O'Connor's Liquor Store and More Russ, both minority owned, right? And O'Connor's have since sold to an Indian family. And so the fight with that business community to get them to take responsibility for their contribution to some of the problems of quality of life on the 2900 block of Nelson Place sort of propelled me into understanding government resources that is not just useful for the resident, but also useful for the owners of property and the owners of business, right? There are resources that government can provide for residents, owners of property, and owners of business. And fighting in that community for better, I kind of learned how to meet the needs of everybody, right? What we have on the 2900 block right now, after all those years of service and work, is an all minority, all Black, all woman business community, right? And a couple of those owners live in our community, right? And not just Hillcrest, but in the surrounding community, right? What did we have to do for them? Well, they were entrepreneurial in spirit. They were technicians. They had products. They had problems, and they wanted to solve them financially. So we partnered them. We connected them with resources from DSLBD. That's one level. So people who are ready to be business owners, they have business plans, they have executive summaries, they have access to capital, they have personal savings. That's level one. Those are the easiest people to grow and develop. And local businesses, local brick and mortar businesses hire from within. So if you look at the 2900 block, you walk into any of those businesses, you will see one or two people from the neighborhood working those businesses. Now, if you go to the opposite end, the 13-year-old that I keep talking about with the gun that's going to hit you over your head for your Bentley, your bicycle, your debit card. Much harder to get them in that pipeline of entrepreneurial opportunity and ownership. Now, first thing I say to everybody, hey, you got to sit them down. They need time to understand what it is that they're doing. If they don't know the difference between right and wrong, they need to be contained a little bit away, right? And we need to pour resources in there and help them understand, like, you can't be outside in normal society raising this kind of cane. Now, they got some social emotional issues, some behavioral health issues, some education and academic issues. So we got to bring them up to speed, right? But let's say, like we said to the returning citizens a few days ago, hey, you got a felony, you can't get a regular job. We're working on ban the box. Cool, ban the box is in place. But when your background comes back and HR and the managers see what you've done, you're going to need some grace where you need grace at. Or, hey, how about you be an entrepreneur? You sold drugs, you did this, you did that. How about we turn those skills into positive attributes that can be released to the community for positivity, for your own profit, for somebody else's benefit? Those folks are equally more in line to become entrepreneurs because they understand how to think outside of the box, because they haven't been pipelined into a pathway that is already mapped out for them. So when you got to fight to get your needs met early on, I got one kid. He came home from feds 10 years. He used to talk about how he used to have to sell drugs to get cereal from G&G, from the corner store on Minnesota Avenue, and feed himself and his little brothers, right? But he already knows how to meet his needs, right? So, hey, let me give you more resources from DSLBD. Let me pipeline you into the main street so you can get more money. Let me show you how to use all these other programs from DACD and the Deputy Mayor for Economic Development, right? I call it being the bridge. I call it, as the council member for Ward 7, my office is your resource to get from where you are to where you want to go, because that office has information, relationship, and knowledge, right? And access to programmatic funds. That's the bridge. So as an engaging, responsive, and accountable council member who has 20 years of service helping Ward 7 residents navigate government to get their needs met, you understand that I'm capable, competent, and committed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. As you were speaking, I was taken away that that's a very rich experience. One of the things that I thought of as you were speaking, so I wrote some preliminary stuff for my notes that I wanted to touch on. You kind of leading into a secondary component of that question. So in my opinion, you have a ward that has a bunch of people who are on the downside of life relative to age. I mean, if we all going to leave here one day, and I'm talking about people who are in the age group of 65 on up, right, to 100 in this ward. Many of those people have lived through various times that they're thinking, some of them, the civil rights movement, some of them I've met are the first person of color to buy within this community. That's one group of people. When I talk to those people about what's going on in the city, they want to lock everybody up. So I'm glad that you actually touched on how to catch one part of it, because one of my big themes is, you can be in first class on an airplane, but if that plane goes down, the people in coach and the people of first class are in no different of a situation. And that's the way I view this ward. The next group of people are the people who have lived in this ward, say less than 10 years, but they have the economics to where they can buy homes in, say, Hillcrest, parts of Mayfair, parts of Deanwood, where houses are going for to $500,000. Those people coming in don't have a lot of information about the history of the city in many cases, or the ward. And then you have those who are struggling day to day that don't have cars. I was reading a study where there's 150 some thousand people who don't have households that may not have cars. And I bounce numbers around, but that may be an exaggeration. But let me put it this way. Many people get to work every day relying on Metro. And then you have that young group that are trying to find themselves, who are also, when you look at the murder rates, you look at the substance abuse rates, they are higher numbers. So all that to say, when you talk about bridging the gap, how do you talk to people like me who really, I'm thinking about retiring. How do you reach me? I hear what you're saying. You want to look out for the people who may be a bit disenfranchised, and hopefully you can get them to come out to vote, because that's a whole nother discussion. But what about people like me? I'm looking to retire. I'm looking for my home value to stay steady. I want to leave a legacy. How do you talk to me in that middle group that just coming into the ward, that has a little economic base, don't know the city well, and trying to find their way? How do you reach that group?
Well, how do I talk to you? I talk to you by listening, right? So one of the things that has enhanced my ability to go downtown is this campaign. Now, I have 20 years of service. People know that. If you've been around long enough, I've been doing good work for the people of Ward 7. But if you're in that 5 to 10 category, you only know me because I'm knocking on your door as a candidate, or someone is telling you, here's all these candidates, you need to talk to VJ, right? So when I listen to what you're saying. I am listening for what you value. I'm listening for what you expect, and I'm listening for what you think is a reasonable thing that can be achieved, right?
Mm.
Most people know that the elected official, the politician, is going to lie to them. And most people know that the politician will deliver a small percentage of what they're promising, if anything at all, right? Because most people understand the nature of the work. Here's what we've done as the president of Hillcrest Community Civic Association. You know, Skyland has been our 20 plus year journey, right? You know that we intended to have a medical office building there. You may not know that the market didn't support that, right? So we pivoted and we put home ownership opportunities there, right? 126 townhomes are going there. We're in the final phase. We're landing that plane. But also, there are 75 units of affordable senior housing. And what I know about our neighbors, right, is that a lot of our neighbors are looking to downsize because they do not need all this house. They bought these houses. One of the persons I think you talked about, Howard Gasaway, 93 years old. He's going to die in his house. But he was a blockbuster for Hillcrest, right? But there are other people in this community who are looking to dump their homes and cash out and live on that as their retirement. But they don't want to necessarily move to Maryland. They don't necessarily want to move downtown. That's why we have those 75 units of senior housing that's going to be affordable, right? You dump your house, you have your cash, you leave your portion to your family, your children, right? You make that money work, right? But you get rid of your house, but you still can live in the same community that you've been living in for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, if that's what you choose to do. A lot of people want to move to Florida. A lot of people want to move to North Carolina, whatever. But the point I'm making is we are looking at a community that is transitioning, who don't need all that they've acquired over the years of their professional service, right? So when I hear people say different things, again, I am listening, right, to connect them to the resource and the opportunity that will enhance their quality of life or their prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
So another question that I have, my experience with council members is, they can vary with regard to who they cater to, right? Which is unacceptable, yet seemingly a constant trait. Friends, family, former associates usually have access. How do you change that for the little guy who doesn't know anyone? Like I say all of the time, if you give the average person a fair shot and they have some gumption, they can make it. What my experience has been, and I don't know whether it's a characteristic of human beings, because you kind of touched on it a little bit when you talked about the image of a politician is they do a lot of this, but when it comes down to make things happen, like, I've heard some things along this campaign that make me really want to. So one, this is a two-parter. How do you ensure that your integrity does not become compromised if you are the winner of this election, to where you speak to all of these grannies and these little guys on the street? You've been to Mayfair, you've been to Deanwood, you've been to Skyland, you've been to Hillcrest. How are they going to know that you're their champion? That's number one. Number two, when it comes to, and this is the second part to the promise piece, the access piece, you talked about people talking about promises. I heard, like, for example, one candidate said they wanted to put the highway, which is 295, underground. I was like, oh, wow, right? That would be great. And then, no, I wasn't trying to be funny. I believe that it would be a great idea. But I'm sorry that I didn't mean that to be a joke. But when I thought about the logistics of it, because people know me. I'm a hands-on person. I take cars apart, bicycles, like the logistics of what that would look like. One, I've seen people make promises that are high end, and then when they don't deliver on that, you use the word pivot. That's a good word. There was a reason why I couldn't give you that bike for Christmas that I promised you. Here's a tricycle. I want to avoid that because I'm getting too old for that. How do you, one, make sure people continue to have access to you? And talk to me about some of the ideas that are largesse and what your thoughts are on those.
I got 20 years of experience at making government work for Ward 7. I'm not idealistic. I have been beaten up by this game. I have learned my lessons. I have fallen and I have gotten back up. And I know what's realistic. Now, I want to talk about that idea. I want to talk about getting you speed bumps and getting your alley paved. And I want to talk to you about potholes, right? That's where I want to stay, right? Because the logistics of something so grandiose, right, that's going to take maybe 2 decades, right, from the federal level, congressional level, all the way trickling down. That's a lot of time, money.
So I'm sorry. Is that it? Are you saying that something like that couldn't happen in a 4-year, 8-year bid if the person's reelected? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I'd rather see the executive make that happen because I grew up in this town. I remember what the Frederick Douglass Bridge used to look like. And I remember how long it took them to make that bridge what it is today. And it's a very nice bridge, right? But I also know about the 11th Street Bridge project, and it still ain't done. So when you get into interstate stuff, that is federal. That is not local. Understand me as a council member for Ward 7 in the DC legislature. I understand what my responsibilities and where my power and authority comes from.
Now you're scaring me a little bit.
Huh?
You're scaring me a little bit because what I believe I'm hearing you say is that for those of us who don't know government so well, if we're not careful, we might be hearing things that are unrealistic. And the why I stopped you is because when I first moved into this area, the Safeway was a brand new deal. And the people who were in power at the time took credit for that Safeway. And then I happened to look back, reading some old newspapers prior to all of the people who took credit for that Safeway. That plan was in place many years before. That whole development, there used to be the general store, used to be Sears. I didn't realize Sears was as big at driving all of that development. And I'm telling you, when I moved around here, I thought I had landed in heaven because there was a new Safeway and everyone was taking credit for it, as are some other projects that I've seen. And then when I look back at the Deanwood Recreation Center and all these big, huge infrastructure projects, these buildings, and then realize that you got to really be careful what you listen to. So that's why I asked about that project, because it really struck me as being a great idea and also Herculean. And I'm glad that you kind of helped refocus me a bit that some things that you hear are great ideas. But if you're not careful, you might get sucked in. So let me pivot. I'm sorry that I'm all over the place, but that was
no. While you do that, let me tell you about a better idea. If we're going to stay on transportation and redirecting traffic, right? How about we come off 395, take the 11th Street exit, right, and then the on-ramp that takes us to the Pennsylvania Avenue Bridge. How about we just open that access road on the left so people can go straight behind RFK Stadium to get to Bennett Road, which local dollars can do. So there's a difference between federal dollars, local dollars. There's a difference between capital dollars and operational dollars, right? If these people who are running against me don't understand funding, they don't understand the funding matrix, they don't understand the budget, they don't understand where sources of resources coming from and what you can do with the dollars, right? we get most of a lot of programmatic dollars from the federal government. Our primary source of high revenue comes from tourism. And then it comes from income tax, property tax, and sales tax. Right? We're not a state, and we don't generate a product to give to the national domestic, gross national product, right? We don't contribute to the country, right, in the way that, say, Florida does with orange juice, or California does, right, or Texas does, right? We don't do that here in the District of Columbia. We get money from property tax, sales tax, income tax, federal subsidies, and tourism. And that's sales tax, right? Okay. So what we can do with money varies. So you go back to Sears. I remember when Sears went downhill. That Sears was the second or third highest grossing Sears department store on the East Coast before the lady got shot out in the parking lot. Okay. And my dad used to take his car there. He had a mechanic shop in it. And business started going downhill back then, right? So local leaders can impact local businesses. When I was the commissioner for 7B05, Safeway and Good Hope Marketplace had threatened to leave because I think something about 60% of their income was coming from residents who were subsidized by government food programs. You know, the people in this neighborhood don't really shop at that Safeway for real, right? And there's a lot of complaints about the operations of that store. We don't put out $300+ million into that Safeway to make it more of what we idealize. We'll just go somewhere else, or we'll just order our food online, right? But when I was the commissioner, they were threatening to leave Good Hope Marketplace. And Wayne has this podcast. He lives on the other side of Hillcrest. Wayne has this podcast called Port of Harlem. Wayne called me, and we put a strategy together. We took this argument to next door. In 24 hours, we had over 150 comments about that Safeway. I downloaded all those comments and took it to the lobbying firm and said, this is what people are saying about your Safeway. So I don't think you're going to be able to get support for the Safeway, because a lot of people, like, they don't care if it goes or not because it ain't serving them in the first place. Right. They fired that lobbying firm, and the ownership group, the owner, Scott, came down from wherever these owners come from and talked to us directly. It was like, how can we make this better? And they wanted to get into Vincent Gray's subsidy program for grocery retailers, right? And they invested $2.2 million in that Safeway. And if you know, you've been in there in a while, the kiosk for that Starbucks is bigger. There's more lighting. There's self-checkout. It's bigger. It's cleaner. It's brighter, right?
Well, to be fair, I also think that the other grocery store across the way had also another driving impact on helping them. And I appreciate your efforts, and I didn't know you had done that. But I think competition is healthy also. So that's a good point. I want to pivot to the health of the people who live in Ward 7 and Ward 8. And what I can tell you is, you know, being in healthcare for over 30 years and supporting health and being someone who has health as a primary driver of my everyday life, African-American men over the age of 55 on up to 85, our numbers are sort of balanced in DC up until we get into the age group, and the people born female tend to live longer than men. And you know, there's statistics that say why. We don't take care of ourselves. Our diets are poor. We're under a lot of stress. We don't exercise. What do you believe, if anything, the council members' role is ensuring that the young people that you mentioned have people like me to look up to, still walking, breathing, that if they want advice or to talk? How are you going to keep people like me alive for the next 20 years? Or do you feel like that's your role?
Well, it is. As the council member, my role is to care about the public well-being. It is my role. It's not in my job description, but luckily you got a guy that runs marathons and does triathlons, and you got someone who rides his bike 75, 100 miles a week in season. So you have someone that values health and wellness, right? But I like what the executive did, right? The executive used that platform to promote health and wellness and to do 5Ks and to do fit events, right? We can do that in the ward. We have a Planet Fitness now. We have a gym, right? In 2018, that gym, December 2018, that gym came to Ward 7 in Penn Branch. Now, one of the things I did to help promote was the community engagement piece. Hey, bring the management of Planet Fitness out into the communities. Let them invest in community events where give them a little money and put your advertisement on the community event. And then talk about the services and the programs at the Planet Fitness. You know, we're under different management at that Planet Fitness now, so it's a different feel. It's a more corporate feel now, but in the beginning, it was a community feel. Now, I also have a certification in health and wellness through ISA, right? So I understand health and wellness, especially for middle-aged Black men. So I understand in my own health consciousness, right, what I need to do. Now, does that mean I won't eat hot Cheetos? I am. It doesn't mean I'm not going to drink. It doesn't mean I'm not going to eat a steak at midnight when I'm out at Morton's, right? But we also have to understand that individual responsibility and personal accountability is on us as Black men. And it's on the people who love us. It's on our wives. It's on our children, right? Because if we're the economic engines for our family, then everybody around us who benefits from us, they are vested in keeping us alive, at least because we're making money and we're providing for them, right? Now, here's one thing policy-wise. When I first got involved with helping that Planet Fitness grow its business, they had a metric. They wanted to do $100,000 in conversions because everybody had a Planet Fitness membership, but not in our community. So what they did was look at how many Planet Fitness memberships are in Ward 7 in that Penn Branch radius, and their goal was to do the conversions. All right, so you know Planet Fitness, $19.99 in the suburbs, $21.99 in the District of Columbia. So residents was like, why would I convert? I'm Black Card. I don't need to convert to Penn Branch and pay an extra $2, $3 for my home gym. So we had to create messaging to explain to them why. Now, while we would create messaging to explain to them why, we also had to dig deep. Why is it $3 more for you to have your home membership in your neighborhood than in the county? Do you know the District of Columbia has a health tax? Why do you have a health tax? Why are you taxing Black people going to the gym to be healthy? That's crazy. We shouldn't have a health tax, right? We should incentivize people working out. We should have more gyms. Just like we do incentives to get grocery stores in Ward 7, we should do incentives to get gyms and fitness instructors to be in Ward 7. Because guess what? I'm guaranteeing you that if you look at the health indicators of the people who go to the Planet Fitness that live in our community over the last 5 years, I bet it's a lot better than the previous 5 years before that gym got there. And I have a community in that gym. You see me in there, man. I train, right? I work out with people. I got 37 people right on my smartphone that we manage and monitor each other's activity, right? But that's individual responsibility and personal accountability. But are we doing more to incentivize health and wellness opportunities to come to Ward 7? The council member did do incentives to get professional and medical, right, and dental services to come to the ward. But that's one component. Once you're at that level of health and wellness, you're on a bad side of it. The DaVitas, all right, we got a DaVita because everybody got diabetes.
Everybody
right?
doesn't know what a DaVita is.
Also, DaVita is where you go to get your transfusion if you got
Dialysis.
Your dialysis if you got diabetes. And there's one right there in Fairfax Village.
Yeah.
Walking distance from where we are, right? But if we want to do more to grow our health and wellness, we
Keep
need
them out of the
more,
hospital. Keep them out
yeah,
of the DaVitas. Okay. Um,
prevention.
I really like that answer. I'm interested in that because, as you stated, the overall number of people in my age group and the economy that we bring and the overall experience that we bring. And when you talk about people in my age group, I'm about to be 60 years old, and I just want to be clear. I don't think it's expressly a black thing, but the numbers do skew toward black people. I think that the issue for a 60-year-old man crosses all races if we are inactive, if we eat poorly, if we let stress take us out. So I'm glad to hear your answers. I appreciate the fact that you are connected in that community. I mean, I didn't know all these things about you. I feel somewhat a little left out that I'm not in the 36 because I have seen you in the gym, but I don't want to be held any more accountable fitness wise than I already am. But I appreciate that. The other thing I would want to talk about, a part of my history, I lived in the Kenilworth Housing Project as a result of being evicted when I was a kid. I used to live on Eastern Avenue, which is on the other side of the ward on Eastern Avenue in Deanwood. So I'm familiar with the Deanwood area, that corridor, that's right there on the line. And the reason why I'm talking about Eastern Avenue, Kenilworth right now and moving away from Hillcrest, which Hillcrest has the issue that I'm getting to. I looked at data on firearm injuries for the past 7 years. There's been 7,200 firearm injuries in the last, I believe, 7 years. What struck me as very interesting is the fact that approximately 1,500 of those people did not live in the District of Columbia. So when you look at the analysis of firearm injuries by wards 1, 2, and 3, people have been shot up there, but they're 3 times less likely when you look at Ward 7 and 8. So we've had a lot of firearm injuries in Ward 8, a lot of firearm injuries in Ward 7. It's no secret that most of those have been men. It's no secret that most of them fall within the ages 17 and 30. But the issue that I want to talk about is the fact that people come into D.C. through corridors around by Southern Avenue, Eastern Avenue, and when they come into this ward, the ward is like a playground for a lot of these people. I'm not saying we don't have our problem people, but what, if anything, do you think, if you're elected, could happen to work with our colleagues in PG County to keep some of their problems in their ward, in their space, and then when they come here and do whatever it is that they do, is there a way that we can get some reciprocity? I'm reaching with this one, but if you come from PG County and you break windows in Southeast or Northeast, or you steal and you rob and then you run back home, that seems a little bit like a problem that we need to we need to fix that. Because so my issue is, what are you going to do for crime that comes into this city and goes a couple of blocks across the line, parallel to Eastern Avenue, Kenilworth, Deanwood, Mayfair, and then Southern Avenue right at Branch?
So a couple of things. I'm not going to promise that I can do anything, right? Because these interjurisdictional things require congressional and executive level participation. But what I can do as an engaging and responsive and accountable council member is to hear it and look into it and have communications about it, right? The bridge, we go back to the bridge. Let me give you a couple scenarios. The District 7 council member used to be the director of constituent services for the Ward 7 council member. I'm going to say that again. The Ward 7 council member, Kevin P. Chavis, director of constituent services, then became the District 7, which is right across the line in PG, their council member. That was a great opportunity
Wow.
for Ward
I'm sorry,
7.
just so I'm clear, the former council member from Ward 7 moved into PG County and became.
No, you're not. No, let me say it again. The director of constituent services
For that council member.
for that council member went on to become the council member for District 7.
Okay.
So
Rodney, we're talking about Rodney.
I don't.
Rodney Streeter.
Okay.
We're talking about Rodney Streeter. Yeah, I think that's where it got thrown off because we thought it was Kevin Davis, but
I got you.
About his staff person.
So
Rodney.
I'm not as connected as you guys. I don't know these guys. So.
And I didn't want to name drop.
Okay, but I appreciate it.
But
I'm clear though. Someone who should have taken an opportunity based on their interim knowledge of the southeast side, the northeast side and then moved over into PG County, you would have thought that would have been a great opportunity, and you feel
No, I'm not saying they did or didn't do anything with the opportunity. I'm saying to the people listening that Ward 7 is next to District 7.
Okay.
And what I hear you talking about is problems with the border.
Okay.
And so I'm saying to you, as the Ward 7 council member, I will partner with the District 7 council member, PG, to figure out how we can fix that. And here's a little nuance. DC owns the road.
Oh, both sides of the street?
Right? If they cross that yellow line, but they still on the street, that's still DC. They have to get to the sidewalk to be in Maryland.
Okay.
So if you talk about one of the issues that used to plague Ward 7, may still do, I don't know if it's as much, Eastern Avenue with the prostitution and the transsexuals, or whatever the proper term is. They would be on one side, right? PG police would come, so they'll go to DC. DC police come, they'll go to PG. But they were out there soliciting. And the neighbors along Eastern Avenue had a tremendous problem fighting that type of crime, because on the eastern end, when you call 911, you might get PG. You may not get DC, but you're a DC resident. So these are some of the nuance and complications of how to deal with those problems, that problem that you brought up just now. Now, if we talk specifically about guns, state laws for guns are a lot different than the local laws in DC. When I first got back involved, I happened to be the executive director for the DC Young Democrats. And so when we was find ourselves in company with Eleanor Holmes Norton a lot, and it used to frustrate me a lot to hear her talk about guns. And I'm like, I can go right down the street and show you where the guns are, right? And I also can go down Marble Pike and show you 3 gun stores. So I'm listening like, yo, like, are you serious right now? Like, I can go to a community in Southeast Washington, D.C. right now and buy a gun. I can show you where to get the gun from. And I can also drive to Marble Pike and show you a couple gun stores along Marble Pike. So the illegal guns are on the street in D.C. We can't seem to stop them from getting there. But right across the line, you have legal shops selling guns. Under those state laws, it's not, all you need is an ID and to be a resident, right? Now, if you go to Virginia, and let's say we go out to Dulles for the gun show that I think happens every month or every 3 months, man, them laws out there, all you need is a piece of paper sometimes. You can get a gun from somebody in a parking lot. You just need a receipt. You just need a bill of sale that showed that the gun came from person A to person B. Now, if you got DC tags, you put the gun in your car and you drive down the street. Now you got some other laws that are going to jam you up. If you cross the Key Bridge or one of the bridges and into the district, you might as well just go to jail, right? If they catch you, right? Just get ready to go to jail, right? So again, I'm aware of these things, but within my power as the Ward 7 council member, that is congressional, that is jurisdictional and state, right? And that's executive. So I understand where the lines are. But when you got me at the table, I'm not lost on what's going on, and you're not going to tell me that you're doing something about it, and I know you're not.
Yeah, I you know, one of the things that I have to just say that I wasn't as impressed by you prior to speaking to you today No, I mean, I don't mean that to be a
It's all
rub.
good.
I don't mean that to be a rub. I'm saying that to say that a lot of times, if you don't actually take the time to talk to a person, you don't really know who you're dealing with. And one of the things that I know for a fact about politicians is that they say everything that they believe that you want to hear, and then once they get the job, to my point earlier, you don't see them. The things that made me make that comment about and being more impressed with you are the fact that you sort of simplified something that I really didn't give a lot of thought to, is that the council member, albeit powerful, is only powerful in a certain sphere. That when I listen to a lot of the people that have been talking about sitting in this office, that fear seems a lot bigger than it actually is. And I think you've given me a more realistic uh, uh, ideology on what I can expect from my council member, because I'm here to tell you I have had higher expectations of people, and now it comes clear to me that maybe I should not have. Um, Not to say I have been disenfranchised with previous people who sat in this seat, but I think I have a better understanding of it.
But let's talk about what you can expect from me as your councilman. You can expect to see me in your community, right? No one argues. Hey, VJ didn't just show up to run for office. Yeah, in fact, part of the difficulty of our campaign is making people believe that I'm running for office. They see the shirts, we get the signs, we got the website, but they're like, yeah, no, that's VJ. VJ always been doing that, right? It's like, okay, good, send me downtown. You know what I've been doing. You know what I'm capable of doing, right? I am going to deliver engaging, responsive, and accountable. You know that from that office, you're going to get a call back from me. You're going to see me at the Safeway on Alabama Avenue. You're going to see me at the Planet Fitness. I was in Richardson Dwellings, Clay Terrace the other day, right? And it was funny because they didn't know I was running for office, even though I walked in with a shirt. I had a jean jacket on, and I came into the meeting, and I just sat down, and I started playing what Ramir, which was a two-year-old baby, grandbaby of one of the women in the meeting. And they was just amazed at the fact that he gravitated to me, and I started teaching him how to write his name, and we started playing. And they was like, yeah, candidate Johnson's supposed to be here, but he running late. And I'm like, no, I'm right here. Right? What? I'm right here. And they was like, you're him. You don't look like that picture. And it was like, we know you. And one of the ladies was like, your uncle used to be a DJ at the Panorama Room, didn't it? I said, yeah, he was. So it's like, the beautiful thing about a 20-year service record is that I can point to what I've been doing. But the negative of the 20-year service record is that people take for granted what I've been doing.
So what I'm hearing, because I'm visual, right? And what I'm hearing is you're a classic Cadillac whose paint may not be as shiny as some of the newer ones, but you still a Cadillac.
My interior, the interior white seats, baby.
No, but I'm trying to make a point, right? Because you hit on something that I'm really fascinated by. And I've been in business and government for a long time, and I tell people who reported to me over the years that the interview is so overrated, because people will produce words and themes, and even when you bring them back, they give you their best face. The visuals always on key, but when you give them that job, you got to go behind and make sure that they show up with who they are. And what I've experienced is that a good number of people are very polished. The exterior is great, but I always say, give me a Jaguar that's got a turbo paint job, but the transmission and the engine and the tires are good, and I can care less about the exterior. And I'm seeing a lot of exterior politics in the city. the visualization. I think we live in a Twitter age, a social media age, and that's what people want to hear. So you got to be able to boil messages down quick. But I'm glad that we had the opportunity to talk today because, again, and I didn't mean that to sound negative, but I'm more impressed with what I've heard, and that's helped me a lot. I've learned something about you that I didn't know, and I thought I knew you, so that's good for me. And the last thing I'll say is, or the last question that I have is, there's a lot of people running for this seat. I was joking with a guy who's really a good friend of mine that I work with, and he said, my council member's seat is up also. I don't think the incumbent is running. He said, but there are two people. And before he thought about it, he said, what are you people doing over there? And then he said, I didn't mean anything by that. I said, I didn't take any offense to it, right? Like, how is it that 10, 11 people feel like they are the person? And my question to you is, what separates you from the field? Because honestly, there are three people, you and two others for me, that rise to the top. What separates you from the others?
Uh, I think if it's not obvious in this conversation, is the depth of experience and knowledge about what I can do with the position and what needs to be done with the position. Look, this campaign has been beneficial to me personally because it has allowed me to grow and transform and stretch myself from the community man that people think they know, may have heard about, right, to the person that we're going to elect to send downtown as the council member. It's me, this person here, and then it's that person right there, right? And and I had to do some deep reflection and some soul searching because people, I have to get people to also accept me and see me as the man who can do the job downtown. People know what I've been doing out here. They know me and they think they know me, just like you said. Well, damn, I thought I knew you. Yeah, a bit, a little bit, something. Somebody told you something or you saw something for yourself. But the council member is what this campaign is letting the voter know. And I look, the glove. They said I could take the gloves off. It's 9 other people running for this seat. They can't handle what I got to offer.
Mm.
They don't even want to debate me. I can't get a debate. We got to have all these forums where people get to lie and say whatever they want to say in 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and nobody can call them out. I pull everybody's resume. I pull everybody's LinkedIn profile. I know all of these people. All of these people, except for 2, have come in after me. I started doing this work in 2002. Some people came into this race as my vice chair for ANC, as a mentee, right? Some are on my golf team, right? Most of the people in this race has come in this space after me, and they just believe that they're better than me because they're younger than me, and they present more. They're more attractive in their presentation, right? But put them on this show, and let's talk about it.
Well, it's funny you mention that because if I have my own podcast, it's a fledgling thing. If any of them are listening or there are people listening and they feel like they want an opportunity, I mean, I don't want to just give you the only chance to grace yourself with my presence. I mean, I'm open. I'm not hard to find. I actually know a few of those people. And I just want to thank you again for this opportunity because it helps me tremendously knowing that the ward could be in good hands once our elder statesman, the great known Brother Gray, moves on. because if any of them can compete with you to this point, then that'd be good to know. And to your point, I'd like to hear it. But I definitely appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. And yeah,
Winslow,
good luck to you. Yeah.
we got people in this race using the image of the council member who don't even know the council member. We got people in this race saying they care about health care and health and human services, but when the chairman of the city council snatched the health care committee from Vincent Gray, 32% of the budget was managed by him. No one stood up and said that that was right or wrong.
Except you.
I work with Chief Short. I work with Julie Rose. We did a petition and collected 200 signatures to say that was wrong. This hurts Ward 7, right? Because let me tell you what happens in the council that none of these other people are going to tell you because they don't know. If I have the committee that represents oversight over 32% of the budget, I got power to trade. I have power to leverage. So now I can move legislation, right? I can get my bills out of committee and into the committee of the whole.
Who has it now, by the way?
The at-large council member who's an independent candidate, Christina Henderson.
Okay.
So
just for those who don't know that, yeah, okay.
So we lost power. And these people who are thirsty for power, who are running with government finance campaigns, are grabbing at power, but have never fought to keep
what does that mean, running with government finance campaign?
So the Fair Elections program is a 5-to-1 match.
I'm sort of familiar with it. 5-to-1.
So you give me $5, the government gives me $25. Now I have $30.
So you're saying you're not taking money from the government?
No, look, the executive want us all.
I'm asking. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
Right? And transparency. You know, I was led that way, and something about the program bothered me. So when we looked at the program, when we experienced the program, I was like, yeah, nah, this ain't good for us. It's not good for us. It's not good for the city. And guess how much money is going to be spent on these people running in this race?
I'm sure a lot. $5 million for the 9 people who are taking the money. Is everybody taking the money, or do you?
5 people, I think. At least 5 people taking the money. So this election is going to cost $5 million. Now we're talking about budget cuts, $200 million being cut from early childhood, $60 million being cut from the Housing Production Trust. Right, I can go on and on. ERAP and emergency rental assistance. That's ERAP. Teachers getting cut from schools, 8-9 teachers getting cut from a number of Ward 7 schools. And here we are, we got people running for office on government money while we, Ward 7, is losing dollars to meet our quality of life and prosperity wants and needs. So no, I couldn't with good conscience take the money and then say, oh yeah, I'm fiscally responsible. I know about budget, and you know I care about these losses, right? I just couldn't do it. It's part of my character, and maybe it's a problem. I don't know. We'll see on June 5th if it's a problem. But
That's the day after the votes are counted, right? June 5th. That's funny.
We are still the leader in this race on issues. We're still the leader in this race on experience. We still the leader in this race on knowledge, right? And what 20 years of work looks like will be realized on election day when the number of people come out to vote VJ. 9 other people got to figure out where they're going to get their numbers from. I got mine. I've been doing this work for a very long time. I've been a commissioner for 10 years, 12 years, 10 and a half years, something like that. I have people who have been voting for me. You know, I've run in elections before. I've helped people get elected, right? But more importantly, Winslow, I have helped people get what they need from government. And when it's time for them to go vote, and that's all they got to do. They ain't got to donate. They ain't got to put a yard sign in. They ain't got to host a meet and greet. All they do is call me and say, hey, BJ, I'm going to vote for you. Now, I want them to put a yard sign in their yard. I want them to donate, right? I want them to host a meet and greet. But you know what? The most important thing to do in this election is to vote VJ, number 4 on the ballot.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, Brother Bolin, for having me. It's been real. I'm a bit energized here.
Hey, look, VJ4War7.com, right?
Gotcha.
Let me put that up on the screen. So we probably should have had it up early. And here's the thing. This is why I'm not a good politician, because I forget the self-promotion part, right? I know the issue part. I know how to make government work, but I keep forgetting the self-promotion part. You know, because you got to tell people what to do, right? You do.
Okay.
You got to tell leadership.
There you go. It's up on the screen now. It's up on the screen now. Hey, everybody. I want to give a big shout out and thanks and great appreciation to our special commentator and questionnaire, Winslow Woodland, a Ward 7 resident. He has his own podcast. Winslow, what's the name of your podcast? Where are people going to find it?
Oh, wow. I'm on Lowe's Logic and I'm on YouTube. I am on Podbean. I am on, of course, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But my focus is health and wellness. I want to see people live long, healthy lives so that we can, leave legacies for people coming behind us and bridge gaps where we haven't been able to get along as humans in the past. So I thank you. This has been real. Fantastic. You guys be safe.
We love it. All right. Winslow, all the best. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. Everybody remember, this is another episode of Chasing Gazillions. Ain't the same as making millions. Community Talk with Anthony Bowling and Anthony Bowling Group. You're a local real estate professional. You're looking to buy, sell, or lease real estate. Give us a shout out. This is your next Ward 7 Council member, Valerio VJ Johnson for Ward 7 Council. Visit his site at VJ4Forward7.com. That's VJFORWARD7.com. Thank you all. Thank you both, gentlemen. It's been a fantastic event, and we will see you on the campus train. Oh, one other thing. Remember, June 4th is the last day to vote. Your ballots were actually mailed out on yesterday, Monday, the 29th. You are getting your ballots in the mail right now. And when you get it, you can vote and put that right back in the mail, or next week after the 10th, put it into a drop box. So remember, June 4th is the last day to vote. Last day, not your first. All right, guys. All the best. Take care. And we will see you in our next episode.